As many Tesla bulls were expecting, sure enough, like clockwork, mass media is completely misunderstanding Tesla's We Robot event. It really doesn't matter what Tesla does. So many will just twist the truth regardless. Did Tesla really not share any timelines and milestones? Did they really not show anything new? Did they really say that the compact car is canceled? Or as some shorts are saying, that it was all fake? Today, we're joined by Justin, a Tesla retail analyst, previously in a tech M&A investment banking, and we'll review his list of rebuttals to this list here. Thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate you.
Hi, Herbert. Hi, everyone.
So I like, I think the third time we've had you on here, you do fantastic work. You really do put things together. People want to find him, go to his X account. It's SMD Capital 1010. He did that for the 1010 event. You're going to probably change that. But LordPrettyFlacko is what he's known. And he doesn't just kind of organize things. He did that for the FSD. You can, if you want to see the progress of FSD for the last several months and where it's going to go, he did that for all the quotes that Elon does, and he was preparing this. And you'll see some, some of the expectations and what he thinks actually happened. So let's start with the misinterpretations that so many have. And again, Justin put these things together, so I liked it so much. I wanted to show folks, this is what we're hearing out there after this big, giant, life-changing event. People come back and say, Elon should give more detailed timelines and milestones. Elon said, we're launching fully autonomous, unsupervised FSD in California and Texas in 2025 using Model 3 and Model Y. And people don't think that that's an actually detailed timelines and milestones. And people say, I don't believe him too.
There's no way he can be right. I mean, right. He's darned if he does, darned if he doesn't. I mean, a lot of these quotes and perspectives are just things that I've been seeing as I go through X, reading the reactions to the event. I think there certainly could have been, I have a grading sheet we'll go through in a second, but, in general, could he have provided more details and timelines? Yes, of course. But I think all of us should have known that this was a 30 to 60 minute event or presentation. So it's going to be very different from the quality of Autonomy Day, which was like 3 to 4 hours worth of presentations. And it was an analyst event versus this one being more of like a late evening, party experiential type of event. So, it's really tough because on one end, he can give clear timelines and expectations, but on the other end, people will say that they don't believe him, right? Or that he said it before and, Elon time and this and that. So it's hard when you aren't being given any credibility for clearly incredible stuff that's in the pipeline.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I mean, like you say, it doesn't matter. So the thing is, right, this was a product unveil, and then prior to the event, he did call it a product launch. But like you said, it is to show the future, and it wasn't an earnings call or a shareholder event where he's about to, predetermined statements saying exactly what's going to happen, and then it follows with this incredibly long PDF and saying things. What he was to do is showing the future, right? So we had 50 autonomous cars driving you through a city that wasn't even, cordoned off. It was amazing. And then he said that we're going to launch autonomous, unsupervised FSD in California, Texas in 2025 using Model 3, Model Y. People say they don't believe him. So then you put this together. Tell me what this list is.
Yeah, so I wanted to take a step back and then, think to myself, okay, well, what are some of the key data points that he shared, right? Because we can fill in the rest of the pieces, especially if you're someone who's been paying attention to the Tesla story for the last several years. So this is just like an outline of looking at, the remainder of Q4 and then looking into the first half of next year, the second half of next year, and then 2026. So we learned a couple really interesting things, right? Obviously, first and foremost, related to the unsupervised ride-hailing launch in California and Texas. Now, this is the first time ever that he has mentioned specific geographies. He has never mentioned that before. What that implies is that there are already conversations happening and there are already plans underway. And, I think one thing that's underappreciated, right, is that if you recall from the Isaacson book, the Robotaxi has been in development and design for almost 3 years. So, this isn't stuff that he's concocting together last minute. I mean, like you said, there was 50 models driving themselves throughout the event in fully polished form. So they are very very much far ahead in production. And there was also an interesting quote. I should have gotten the screenshot, but there's another quote that said that they were talking to a Tesla engineer, and they were basically saying that, look, they have so much engineering resources dedicated to the Robotaxi, and they were surprised by the lack of details on Elon's end. And it almost felt like a concept car, but in reality, right, there's a lot going on. So in my opinion, my takeaway is that 2020, the timeline he gave for the production of Cybercab is largely, is not bottlenecked by production in general. It's bottlenecked by the software. And so what I think he's really saying is, look, if we want to go into mass production and ramp this thing up as quickly as we can, we think that it can probably start in 2026, because 2025, right, is when we're going to launch the unsupervised FSD in certain geographic areas, roll that out, and then be able to bring on the Cybercab thereafter. So it's a process, and 2026 makes perfect sense. If they said 2025, it actually wouldn't make that much sense, because the timelines for rolling out in stages, just doesn't fit.
Yeah. So the biggest concern that people have is when he says something, do you believe it? But then, like what you just did was, well, it wasn't just him. Here's like, I saw what you were talking about. There was some engineers saying this, people talking to engineers. I also spoke to a number of the actual Tesla engineers. When they say something, yeah. Actually, what I actually did remember was Franz was interviewed, and he said that he was thinking about Robotaxi since 2018, about 6 years ago. But I think they really gotten full onto it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to share this. This morning, Elon posted this, and he said, "For my time-based predictions, I generally aim for 50% percentile date, which means that half my predictions will be late and half will be early. The press never mentions the predictions that were early, so it seems like I'm always late. However, it's very rare that a prediction I make does not come true over time." Yeah. What's your thinking about this 50-50 thing?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I think it's prudent, right? Because on one end, if he's always giving, the 10th or 25th percentile, meaning very early, like the earliest possible, then, it creates kind of this, this air of, always feeling behind schedule, or, trying to be pushed way too fast such that the team actually becomes demoralized. I think, with the 50th percentile, basically what he's saying is that, like, look, half the times they're going to be right a little bit, half the times I'll be wrong a little bit. They're doing really tough stuff. This is not like creating a mobile app and pushing an update, right? Which is trivial to do, frankly. This is hardcore technology that's end-to-end and vertically integrated. So these things aren't just happening haphazardly. I think there's a lot of perception out there that, like, Elon likes to make stuff up. And that's just not true, because on the other hand, everyone says, oh, look at Elon, he, lands rockets, he, creates tunnels and self-driving cars and everything in between. You just can't hold both of those views, right? I see a lot of people that are like, they believe all these really positive things about Elon, but then whenever he shares his plans and timelines, they say that, they're not reliable or they're not accurate. Well, I mean, you kind of have to pick a side, right?
Yeah.
And go from there. So.
Yep. I mean, so it is true that sometimes he will say something because he wants the team to act faster. He wants a sense of urgency. He wants to make it. And then, things happen. This is impossible things. And then it's a little lower. But then he's also very aware of that. So 50% of the time, he might say something and then they're actually shooting to beat you ahead of it. So that's why, like you're saying, the Robotaxi could be one of them. And I am on your side. I actually think there's enough signals to show that people are like doubting, but it's actually very close, much closer than. It's more likely to fall before what his dates were versus afters. We'll see, right? Let's go back to your list again. So just let's walk me through this.
Yeah. So Q4. So what we have coming up is we basically have two more binary events. Okay, over the next 3 weeks, we have the elections and we have Q3 earnings report. Right. And then all of that is done. Right. That's the really big overhang right now. So earnings, the exciting thing about earnings is that I believe Elon's going to come through with details.
Yes.
All the details that are rounded up from the analyst commentary, I believe Tesla's investor relations team is well aware of all of their initial reactions, and I think they'll incorporate those details into the earnings call presentation and Q&A. So that's my first prediction. What I hope is that they're also going to reiterate the next gen vehicles like they have been doing every earnings call this year.
Okay, I'm getting it now. Justin. Again, I love it that you did this because you made a post earlier and you were saying, please, Tesla, these are the things that analysts are saying. Please come back and just, hit them off. And you're saying, actually, they will, and they'll do it at the Q3 earnings call, which makes the most sense. Perfect.
Yeah, totally. And that's my hope, of course. I think they have a lot of this stuff. I think the way to think about it is like, what details are they not sharing and why? Mm-hmm. Because they have a rationale for it, right? They have the cards in their hand, and he's picking and choosing which data points to share. I think that's more deliberate than is otherwise believed. So aside from that, so obviously we have the elections. Trump is going to be a huge tailwind for Tesla if and when he wins, hopefully. We've seen multiple posts and proposals from Trump that are pro-Tesla, inevitably. One of which, interestingly enough, was that he wants to ban Chinese OEM automobiles from autonomously driving on US roads. Right. Interestingly enough, Waymo's 6th generation vehicle is going to be made by Zeekr, which is a Chinese OEM. So again, there's a lot of things there, but we'll see how that goes. And then obviously we have the Fed.
For another time, we will cover that a little bit closer. I think I'm gonna do a podcast with potentially Rohan and Alexandra and Jeff.
Oh, but nice.
Just this morning, Trump said in a speech that he's going to do everything he can to not allow autonomous vehicles at all. I don't know exact quote, but that's a gist. So it's hard to know where he's at with that. But okay.
Yeah, I trust that they'll do the right thing. And then obviously we have FSD version 13 being released this month in October.
Right. That's right.
Per the roadmap that they shared. And they said it would be a 6 times improvement. So we'll see more about that later. But obviously he didn't touch on that during the event, which a lot of analysts actually commented on.
Yeah.
So looking ahead into next year, right, we have a few kind of really interesting things. The first two here are the next gen compact and affordable base models that will go unveiled and into production. That should happen.
How many do you count there? How many is that? Tell me.
I'm going to guess that there's going to be a new Model 3, a new Model Y, and then a compact vehicle. So 3 minimum.
Okay, there's 3, right? Okay, because somebody was saying there's no new cars. I'm like, right. There's 3 cars.
There's 3. At least 3. I mean, maybe S and X as well, but I think Model 3 and Model Y for sure.
2 more affordable cars, and then he did not say that the next gen compact is. There's nobody saying that that's canceled yet. We don't know yet, but it's not like you can't say it is. Okay.
Yeah. And he can't say anything about it. That's the thing, right? His lips are tied. As soon as he mentions anything about it in detail, that starts to hurt sales. I mean, you just can't do that until it's ready. So, and then after that, again, from the Tesla AI roadmap that they posted, Q1 is when they expect FSD China and EU to launch. And we know from back in June, there was a flurry of updates. I don't know if you remember from about Tom Zhu meeting up with all these different regulatory officials in China. And there's a lot of talk about FSD China and plans to launch a pilot. So that should be imminent, right? And that should be coming in Q1, maybe early Q2, I think is what Elon reiterated on Twitter. And then, of course, we have this is a prediction, but the first FSD licensing OEM announcement should also take place in the first half of 2025. We know that Elon already said they are in talks with a handful, I think he said, a handful of OEMs. So the chances of one of them pulling the trigger, especially after the Robotaxi event, I think it's imminent. So it should be coming.
The Stellantis president was actually there at the event yesterday. So there was we were hoping that they were going to make that announcement. It didn't happen, but he was there.
Yeah, so, interesting. Very interesting. So wouldn't be too surprised, right? And then so in the second half of 2025, we have the unsupervised FSD ride hailing launch in California and Texas. Now, he said using Model 3 and Model Y, and what my prediction is that, you know, they're going to be using their previously leased fleet. So they're going to start using up the vehicles. And, you know, this is something he said in Autonomy Day, that there was a plan. And that's why every single Tesla has a clause that says, A, you can't buy after the lease, right? We want the car because we want to operate it as a robotaxi. And secondly, you can't use autonomy outside of the Tesla network, AKA you can't use an autonomous Tesla for Uber. So those are two really important clauses to keep in mind. And so his plan, obviously, is to use Model 3 and Model Y to begin these operations, refine everything before scaling up and preparing for the Cybercab launch.
I love it. Did you? I don't know if you caught this, but a few people did, because it was like the day before the Robotaxi event. Tesla announced that you can they have a new program. If you have a lease of a Tesla, you can get out of it early if you then go buy a new car. So they're promoting you to get out of leases earlier.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yep. And then, you know, obviously 2026, easy. Cybercab and Optimus begin going into production. So I just saw G Munster, he just posted actually just a few minutes ago talking about how, you know, maybe 2025 is the setup for 2026. I don't know. I don't know about that yet. I'm a little bit more confident that 2025 will be the big year, because I don't think the market's going to wait to start pricing some of this stuff in. I think they just need a little bit more evidence and details. I think we're getting close.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the last couple of things that I'll mention at the bottom here. So first and foremost, Elon confirmed that there's going to be a fleet operator business model available, meaning individuals and companies will be able to buy and be a flock, and, you know, be almost like a shepherd to a flock of robotaxis. That was the first time that he actually specifically said that. And that's very interesting. Now, he did not mention, though, whether or not Tesla will be also a big customer of this product as well. So that's still TBD. The next thing they showed, but they didn't talk about, but they showed video clips on the live stream, was of the automated self-cleaning robot station and inductive charging. So what they're going to have is this. They're going to have these stations where, you know, you can imagine a supercharger lot. They'll maybe have 2, 3, 4 of these stations where robotaxis, cybercabs specifically, will be able to drive up, charge while it's being cleaned, and then go back on the road. So it creates this sort of infinite type of operational model, which is beautiful. Yeah. So that just answered a huge question that everyone was having, everyone who really studies the space. It's like, how is Tesla going to manage, let's say, 1 million cars? That's a lot of operations, right? Some people were saying, look, maybe they'll have an Optimus, right? One Optimus at a parking lot, you know, so that when they're charging the cars, they can come and clean. But now, I mean, look, this is a much better solution that's much more scalable.
So I did a whole show on the patent of the self-cleaning technology with Jeff. We covered the whole patent. And It just so happened that at the actual event where I was standing, which is next to the VIP, almost right in front of the actual stage, the guy behind me, tall guy, he is an ex-Tesla guy. He worked on the patent. He worked on the Cybercab. Yep. And we talked the whole night. And he is so proud. Like, he was like, you know, as soon as I shot it up, I looked back and he was just telling me about it. And he's like, yeah, this is the work he's been doing, which, again, I spoke to him. So I have, again, my feeling is, right, just by speaking to this guy, that this is real. This isn't just a patent. And when you saw the video, it's real. Now, people still say, just the video, right? It's just the CGI. It's all hopes and dreams. Okay. I'm feeling pretty confident that this thing was real, because I actually spoke to a guy who could have, you know, didn't feel like he was lying to me, and we spoke for a long time. So
yeah, I bet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that is the coolest thing. I did not expect that personally. That is huge, and that answers the operational aspect for sure. Yeah. And then aside from that, you know, cost per mile, 20 to 40 cents, right? We all know that now. What's interesting is that if the price is to the consumer is around $1.50 per mile, which I believe it'll be for the first 5 years at least, that implies over a 70% gross margin. So again, you know, I think everyone who's studied CERN's work or even my work, you know, we're pretty much on par with that. So that was exciting to see. Next one, you know, RoboVan production timeline. I guess it's still uncertain, right?
They didn't say a word. No.
Didn't say anything about it.
No.
So, question mark. But I think one thing that's underappreciated is the fact that the RoboVan is what will enable Tesla to offer autonomous ride hailing, because government regulators require wheelchair accessibility. So that's underappreciated. So as long as they have a small fleet of that, they can operate it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So Franz von Holt, I spoke to him for a long time as well. And when he was actually giving people some actual like within an interview inside the RoboVan. And what he's told them at that point was, this was the one more thing, that at 8.8, Elon wanted this, they're close to, having this thing ready to be able to be demoed like this. And that was the one thing. So it's not like fake. It's not like, we just want to wow them. Can you please have something else? I like the way you described it, which is almost a necessity, that they would have to have something that can accommodate, it's just part of the rules, right? Yeah,
absolutely. That is definitely, and you guys can also check out California's website, CPUC. You can read about Waymo's requirements and their permits, and wheelchair accessibility is a big topic. So nice. Yeah.
Okay. This is great. Okay.
Yep. And I guess maybe one thing I'll touch on the bottom, because I actually the more I think about it, the more interesting it becomes. The Cybercab will have AI5, so it's over-spec'd, Elon said, such that they'll be able to do distributed inference compute. What's interesting about that is that, of course, maybe it's not a ton of income, but it offsets the low utilization periods, which increases the overall profitability of the Cybercab. So it's very, very
always making money, right? It doesn't matter if it's not being used or it's used. We're still making money 24 hours a day.
Yep. At minimum, it covers, maybe a portion of the cost of operating for the day, right? So all of a sudden now, the margins will probably even be up. I don't know how to model this stuff or how, realistic it is. So I still have a question mark, but that is upside. So,
one thing I like about you is you do a good job of keeping quotes that Elon has said. And how often has he actually said this idea of, inference compute, like a
AWS.
Amazon AWS model of it, right? He said it many times, almost every time. Now he's always saying maybe way in the future. So we all think 2030, but he actually said it regarding this, which is, everything you just pointed out, like it could actually be as earlier than 2030. It could actually come sooner. So, just before we move on, I just wanted to mention, like, what happened to me was the next morning when I woke up after the event, I got this surge of energy, and I started realizing that I had a very different viewpoint of what I saw that night before. What the big one was this. He said that unsupervised FSD is going to launch in California and Texas, which, by the way, was the thing I really wanted. I did not want to hear a supervised FSD at all. I wanted to hear unsupervised. Now, then he said that the Cybercab will be sold to consumers. Okay? So if that's the case, you can't just be making, well, what does Waymo do? 700 to be able to hit their thing, their 4 whatever cities. They're going to go start making this in production, which is, let's say, it follows the Cybertruck model. 50,000, 100,000 in the first year, right? So this is real. It's not. It's like, this isn't just a test pilot for one city or two. This is now something that's going to be sold to consumers. So,
and you know what? I darn it, I'm trying to look for it really quick to see if I can find it. But darn, on that topic, there's this tweet. Maybe I'll have to do this afterwards. I'll try to find it and send it over to you. But there was a really great tweet. Oh, found it. Sorry. Q2 2013 earnings report. Okay. There's a quote that I found. They said, the dedicated Robotaxi products we think have quasi-infinite demand. The way that we're going to manufacture the Robotaxi is itself a revolution. So it's a revolutionary design made in a revolutionary way. It'll be by far the highest units per hour of any vehicle production ever. So I just want to highlight that, because that is their intention. The way that it's vertically designed, right, is that it's incorporating the manufacturing method to scale rapidly. So this will actually be much more rapid rollout than all previous vehicles.
We're piecing things together because if you look at this Robotaxi very, very carefully, it is so clean and simple. It's meant to be and go. If you look at the doors, they don't have those, you know, cup holders or space so that people can't leave garbage, but it's just one flat thing. There's no, you know, there's no a window in the back. It's just one flat thing. It's just slap. So they have intentions for this thing to be the, you know, mass, like we're talking probably equal to every car that they make today, like 2 million, 5 million per year of this one thing.
And one thing I'll add really quickly. So I used to work at Line, which was the e-scooter company that, you know, does kind of transportation as a service. And I was part of the global strategy team. One thing that's very interesting about this space, because it's so comparable to robotaxis in the way that the business model works, the lowest cost of production wins. Because for scooters, for example, it's all about how can you get scalable, but good quality, right? Like good quality, good range, right? Good battery, et cetera, but cheap. Because the cheaper you go, the more profitability you can make. And therefore, you know, the more efficient the asset is. So if Tesla wins that game, then it's going to be about how can we put as many of these suckers on the road as we can.
If you do a price war there, Uber and others just can't do it. There's no enough money you can do it because you can go so low. Okay, thank you for putting this list together. This was great as a reminder. Appreciate that very much. So some of the other things that people say, like Elon goes, okay, I'm usually optimistic on timelines, but the Cybercab will go into production in 2026. Haha. Or I should say sometime before 2027, because he was self-aware that his timelines, he's too optimistic. And so I kind of personally, so everybody goes, yeah, this is exactly what everybody going, 2027. You know what that means, 2028 or 29. But I really wish he didn't say the word 2027, because it really was, it's going to come in 2026. But no, everybody's now automatically thinking he said 2027.
Yeah, and you know, that sentence was, I think there's a lot of debate online as to like how that sentence should have been interpreted, because he didn't know, like he didn't say before the end of 2027. He said before 2027.
No.
So what that implied was that it's either late 2026 or early 2026. To me, that was my initial take.
Right. No. So 2026 and the word sometime before 2027 is the same thing.
Yeah. It's basically saying later in the year, or, you know.
He wasn't saying, right. He goes, or should I say, you know, look, you're right. He said it twice, which is, I'm telling you, it's going to be in the year 2026. He didn't go, or maybe sometime in 2027. That's not what he said.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And then another one was, why wasn't a compact car shown at the Robotaxi unveil? Must not be happening anymore. What's this quote here? Yeah.
From the Q2 earnings, so the latest one, they said, plans for new vehicles, including more affordable models. So note the plurality there, right? Remain on track for start of production in the first half of 2025. So remember, this was just 10 weeks ago.
Yes.
Like suddenly, all of a sudden, it has disappeared from everyone's mind. So the fact of the matter is that he's not going to go and show all these vehicles until they can start taking orders on it. Exactly. So if it's going to happen, if production's happening in a few months, I mean, goodness, give it a couple months, guys. Yeah.
So this is the new affordable models, right? And then can you explain to me what you think about this compact car? Because one of the friggin' thing that I was fighting every single show that I did for the run up to this event was all these analysts, one after another. You know who they are. They're like going, I'm most looking forward to the $25,000 compact car being announced. That's more important for Tesla. And like, what? Where did that come from? How did you come to that? The only analyst who said that it's not going to be shown was Dan Ives, and everyone else, this is what they're doing, because it's, you know, Tesla's a car company. They need to show a $25,000 car. So
yeah. You know, I think Gary Black really drilled into everyone's head. And I think separate from that, the Isaacson book actually had a really interesting quote where they basically talked about France kind of convincing Elon, right? That, hey, look, we can actually do the Robotaxi and the compact car on the same line, right? So I think all of that's still in play. I don't really see there, you know, being a big argument as to like why that wouldn't take place, because Fran's argument was that, look, if we want to continue 50% CAGR growth, we have to enter this 700 million unit TAM, which is the compact vehicle.
Yeah.
I understand that, like, I think that they can do both, because autonomy, it might be 12 months away or 24 months away. In the interim, we still need unit growth. So we need more affordable models, one of which could be a new compact vehicle. So I think it still makes strategic sense to do it.
Yeah. My interpretation of what's happening here is they're launching the 2 more affordable models. And I think you'd be shocked how much further they can reduce that price for just the more affordable models on existing lines with more unboxed model systems. In Mexico, Tesla launched a new trim of the Model 3 that cut out $3,000 just by making it, the interior is cloth, is one example of what they did. But
exactly,
that should be enough to have growth of lower pricing. And then the following year, if, like everything you're saying, FSD is lower, all that stuff, then they can decide to create a version pretty easily at this point, because they're already manufacturing this one.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this was I felt like this was separate, but it was just, again, another statement that you're saying, that just another where people just cannot believe this is the truth. But in fact, didn't they release this, or at least one of the superclusters, in just like, 122 days? So
exactly, they built the largest one in the world in 122 days. So it's coming. I think we just don't have, obviously, like a lot of line of sight into how these GPUs will help improve the rate of improvement, right? The curve of miles per intervention. Right. But, it's coming online, and they've given guidance that it'll be 6 times better than version 12.5, which is crazy. That's huge. So we'll see.
And again, it's a Tesla AI team doing it. And so they have the actual metrics. And so when they say it, I actually believe it. So whenever, somebody goes, I tested it myself and it didn't feel like it was, what Elon said was going to be 10 times better. But this is coming directly from the AI team. And they have the data, dude. So,
and they knocked out every single goal they had in September. It's worth noting. They did it.
All right. So I love this so much. You put this together, you have 5 themes, and each theme, you were saying, this is prior to the event. You said these are the things that you thought was important. And then if whatever happened in that theme, it's either going to be your base, your bull, or your bull. And now you've colored the ones that you thought were actually what happened. So timelines, milestones, and business model. If it was vague timelines and milestones, and then I'm not going to go through the details here, that means that it's kind of a base. That's what you were expecting. If they didn't give any timelines at all, that's a bear. If they really laid out the whole plan, that's a bull. So you thought, at the end of the day, you thought it was, they gave a lot of timelines, but not they didn't give everything out of the way. Yeah.
Exactly. And I do pack a lot into these bullets, like a lot of different separate topics. So sometimes it'll be like, they hit some of it, they didn't hit. But I think thematically, the reason why this is number 1 in ranked order is that we needed details. And I think that was really the main concern from analysts coming out of the event, is that they needed more details. So that's why, I think base is kind of like, we got some really good stuff, but we were missing a lot of really good stuff too. So kind of middle of the road.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then a pilot program was announced. The market launch was giving guidance. Exactly. I don't know why people didn't realize this is actually the bull. They said, you actually, did you retype this or this new, or was this exactly what you were hoping?
That was original, which is crazy. Yeah. That's why my mind was blown when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, they said California and Texas.
So this was like what you had done before the event, and it's exactly hit what you were hoping they would do for the bull case. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the one thing that they could have added was a little bit more details on the regulatory progress. So I would say that piece was still kind of like more like base case, not many details were given. But I think when you piece it all together, right, they have a line of sight internally. They're just not really mentioning that detail on this specific event. Maybe we'll get more details on the call.
If they said, I'm going to do it in California and in Texas, if they said, I'm going to do it in 2 states versus I'm doing it in California and Texas, which means, guess what? They've already gotten regulatory approval.
You got it.
They feel so powerful that those were done deals that they're going to willing to say it. Exactly. Okay. Cybercab production timeline. What? You gave it a bear case? Come on. What?
The only reason is because I already had there as 2026.
Oh, you were hoping that. Oh, come on. You thought that bull case was Q1. Okay, all right, I see
Q1
here.
for next gen models. So that technically is still, you know, we just didn't get details, right? They didn't reiterate it, but it's still, that's still their expectation is a Q1 next gen model being released, whether that's the affordable base models or the compact car, we'll see. But the reason why I gave this kind of a bear marking was just because the Cybercab, you know, is going to be 2026. The next gen models, it's actually unfair for me to say that it's Q3 and beyond. Right?
I was going to tell you that. Yeah, for sure. That's
so it's a little bit mixed. So sorry about that. I should have had discrete
separated, but yeah. So well, I mean, it's a right theme, right? Which is this whole idea of a more affordable models. That's critical. And the Cybercab is 2026, and I like you do that. But the next gen models is Q1 2025.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe mixture of red and green would be.
But then they didn't reiterate it, so I agree with you there.
Yeah,
they didn't reiterate it.
They just did that. Man, a lot of people would be much happier.
All right, I like this. Okay, products unveiled.
Yeah, so I gave this one a red. I know that we got a little bit extra. We got the Robovan, but very little details on the Robovan, you know? So it's kind of hard to get excited about that.
Prototype,
so, and then no new details on the next gen models. So that's kind of why I left it there.
Agreed, that's fair. That's fair.
And then FSD progress, guidance, and GPU Cortex supercluster commentary. So what I was hoping was that on the topic of autonomy, he would be really excited to share about the billions of dollars they spent on GPUs building out the Cortex. So I was hoping for some commentary there, just so that we can understand, like as investors and analysts, we can understand how it'll affect the rate of improvement. Because we've seen really good improvement throughout this year, but should we expect an accelerated rate as a result of all these new GPUs coming online? So I gave it a base case. I think, clear line of sight to end of year 2025, greater than human. That's statements that he's given in the past. And I think by virtue of him saying unsupervised will be launched in California and Texas next year, I think that met, that kind of baseline expectation, if not better. So
I like this very much. When he moved it from 8.8 to 10.10, it's a perfect setup of 1010, which is neural nets. And I thought that this was the whole point of robotics AI. But what they did was they kind of like showed it to you. Like they didn't just show it to you. You got in the cars. You walked amongst bots. They showed you what life would be like. The whole party that I was walking around, and this is massive. This is like, imagine a Disneyland, and you're like walking for hours going from one location to another. It was that big. You had cars that are autonomously driving everywhere. You had people riding their bicycles and ATVs. They allowed anybody walking anywhere. There was no restrictions. And so all the autonomous cars had to, I did two drives on the two different kind of cars that were autonomously being driven. And I've been asking the question, was it fully autonomous, or was there somebody teleoperating or something that my answer I've been receiving is that it was fully autonomous.
Nice.
And the cars were perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Like they were moving fast. They moved around. They knew what to do. So that really, I lived in the future. This was it. I wanted to go somewhere. I, got into an autonomous car. Nobody where they dropped me off. In fact, at one point we actually said, stop the ride now. Stop now, because we saw something we wanted to go to instead. Another lineup. The lineup didn't have anybody in it. It's like, we want to go there. Stop it now. And there was a thing that let you stop the ride. And so this was as controllable. And you had bots everywhere. So the only thing I'd say here is, you had FSD progress and guidance, but he didn't verbally say it, except to say that, you'll be impressed because you can actually, it wasn't about him saying the words. It's about you experiencing it.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't just, a fake. Some people are saying, oh, this was all faked. What? I got into a real Cybercab. The Cybercab really drove me autonomously, and even better than Waymo, because there was nobody, we don't know the truth of that, but that's the case. Nobody's teleoperating it. And then you had real bots. Now that was teleoperated, but still you can see it. They could talk to it. So, and my only thing was you didn't put bot at all in the 5. And
I actually had it as like, I think number 6 or number 7. So I kind of just left it out of this conversation. But, one thing also, Herbert, about the demos, I think for anyone who's actually worked in an industry where you're putting on live demonstration. So I was part of the Jimmy Kimmel show for this autonomous robotics delivery company that I used to work at.
Wow.
And I had to control the robot because I was on stage, I was representing the company. And this was for DoorDash as well, the partnership. It took hours and hours and hours of preparation and days of planning for us to come up with a plan and actually, try to get this done. So for them to do this is extremely risky. And I think what I'm trying to get to is that there's a lot of confidence behind it, which means there's a lot of progress behind the scenes that we haven't, been akin to. So it's worth mentioning.
I totally agree with what you said, because I actually have been saying exactly what you said. The confidence that they had to let, like I say, if I were to do this, or most companies, it would be restricted. You would still drive for 5 minutes, but there wouldn't be like, you would have your staff to appear like it's like the streets are, bustling, but they would all be walking on, very pre-designed areas, right? That's not the case. Any of the 2,000 people could walk anywhere. You can cross the path of this. They didn't. Yeah,
it was so epic. I mean, super cool. I mean, I think if you're watching it, it was obviously a different experience. So you probably had a different takeaway, right? Especially if you're skeptical. But you have to imagine being there and seeing all that. So
walking around, living in the future, watching the bots, stopping to talk to the bot.
So cool.
Then you turn around, there's another bot. You go over there, there's a bot. You go there's all these robotaxis everywhere.
Insane.
And then so it was great. But
that's the best event.
It was one of the best events. And so, like you say, it's like yes, he didn't say things, but he was trying to like get in, touch it. Like I touched the friggin' cyber cab. You could press any of the button, and somebody, I didn't even think of it, but then later I found out somebody knew that you can actually press the rear trunk to open. Like,
oh yeah.
And I didn't.
And it was huge
to do that, but they did it, and then they did a video, and then that took off because what you can. I should have done that.
Not to mention, they had, like you said, 50 of them.
Well, they had 30. They had 20 of the cyber cabs, and then they had 30 of the Model Ys.
20.
But they had 50 autonomous vehicles picking up everywhere. And it was like 3 stations, and there was like lineups, and
but the fact that they had 20 of them, right? It's not just like one concept car that they put together really quick.
I was asking Jeff Lutz about that. Like, of course they could have. This is Tesla. They could have certainly slapped together 20. But back to your original point, I think we might be surprised that they are. He said 2026, but guess why 2026? Because this is friggin' production level. This isn't about a pilot of 700 cars they're going to do in one city like Waymo does. This is about, I'm about to sell you a Cybertruck, and it's about to go online, and hundreds of thousands of people can buy it around the world, and we're going to the moon. It's going to be 1 million the next year,
Exactly.
Or 2 years.
So it's an exciting future. I mean, it'll happen faster than we think.
Okay. Well, thank you for putting this together. I really like that you did this. You organize all those statements that analysts and other people are saying, and you give them a little bit of guidance of what actually happened and what the comments were. Yeah. Thank you very much, Justin. So you should follow Justin on his X account. You can see here SMD Capital 1010. Are you going to change that, or are you going to keep that?
Probably going to keep it. I don't love the fact that it kind of sold off the next day, but I think this was a historic date, so I'll probably keep it.
I still agree with you. Thank you so much, Justin. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.